let's dive into the biggest news, and it is out of Loudoun County. And it is not their really nice 2-0 win that they got over the Pittsburgh Riverhounds, where they once again just continue to be the best team in the league on the pitch, but off the pitch, it's not as good. And somebody has to make sure I say this right. Pablo Maurer released an article on The Athletic where he kind of outlines everything kind of going wrong off the pitch, and we'll hit into some specifics. But here's what you need to know, and this was obviously confirmed by Loudoun. Well, kind of. This part is where Loudoun United and Virginia Revolution are merging, and they are trying to become this big Virginia mecca, essentially. Well, the players are saying that they are having to watch their own kits. Like, the locker room situation is horrible. The pitch is borderline unplayable. They have said that they are prepared at any given time for a game to be called off due to poor pitch conditions. They even considered not playing their following match after the Birmingham match, but they kind of talked through it and decided to. And the big quotes that everybody saw, and it was definitely crazy. And it's an anonymous source within the locker room. Ownership, in my words, it's F the owners, other word used. All we have is us at this point, and who knows how long we have left together. And that is a good point, because the sporting director, Oliver Gage, has been sacked. He is no longer on the website. This was not posted publicly. They did not thank him for anything. He has been sacked without any kind of severance, as far as we know. And that's what's going on in Loudoun. When everything is going well on the pitch, it is awful off of it. I don't know who wants to go first, but have at it.
Welcome to international women's soccer is what that sounds like to me. Argentina women making their own bologna sandwiches because they don't get enough per diem. But it's really sad that in the U.S. as a country that there's just not even investment in a washer and dryer or someone to help, because we're one of the richest countries in the world. Where are the sponsors?
Yeah.
Yeah, and especially in what we've seen with outside of USO in announcing pro rel and having all these ambitions, to still have these debacles within ownership groups kind of just exist within the league is not really a good look for a league that is at least trying to say they have ambition to be Division One league. Like, this is a team who would be presumably playing Division One soccer come 2027. And the fact that it's still doing stuff that they, as it was quoted in the article, is out of the movie Major League is just really a really poor business practice. And like, all credit to the players who are still there, to Ryan Martin for keeping the performances on the pitch very high. I mean, they're currently atop the USL Eastern Conference and the league at the moment. But yeah, this has just been a very, a really unnecessary bad look for the championship.
I think it's also really bad when you have that on one hand, and then the USL is releasing this great investment news. It almost seems like, which do you want to be talking about? Because we should be talking about these amazing wins for the USL, and instead we're talking about things that should have been solved 10, 15, 20 years ago. And I guess my one question, because I wasn't able to read this article, full disclosure, where is the players union in this? And usually they have that role of being able to advocate and come together for players, especially for a team, because we also know retaliation is a real thing. So if you are that one voice who's identified, you don't want to lose your pro career over standing up for yourself. But the players union should be also one to advocate significantly, because a poor pitch is going to affect all of the teams who go to play there. And I don't think anyone wants, one of their star players injured because of a poor field.
Now, this is full transparency from me. I have not talked to anybody at the USLPA, and nobody from the USLPA was quoted in Pablo's article. That said, this is a situation where I'm not sure how much this gets into what the PA can actually do. The amount of times I've read this CBA is actually kind of crazy. And as far as I understand, they can put pressure on, but as long as the pitch is playable, it's out of the scope of the CBA. And I'm going to try to pull it up, and I have it saved on my computer because, again, I go to this thing way too much. But the general reason, or the general gist, is that Loudoun hasn't broken any rules within their contract unless there's other things not stated in this article. Everything by the contract and by everything else, they haven't done anything wrong. Now, when we talk about workplace conditions, which is what the USLPA is here for, they are here for workplace conditions to be upheld to the highest standard. And Danielle, I think this is where we're going to have interesting conversation because, and I've talked about this a lot, and I keep bringing this up with ProRel. The CBA is running out this year for the championship. It's about to be done. There is about to be some kind of conversations between the league and the championship. Is that going to run through ProRel? Is that going to run right before? What's going to happen? Right? And situations like this are going to have to be discussed by the players. They're going to have to raise the standard of pitches, both on the field, off the field. They're going to have to raise the standard of locker rooms. They can't be just storage containers anymore. Loudoun's not the only storage container locker room. They're not the only ones.
I think, guess what's going to be in the next CBA? USL Championship should have simple things like a kit man, a kit room, laundry, and you just need someone part-time to come in at 6:00 at night, throw everything in, wash, dry. I mean, that's not even like we're talking a full-time position. That's a few days a week because we know they're on the road, So also, as we're talking about, we need to talk about the World Cup coming in 2026. Yeah. And I know, for example, SAFC was one of the potential headquarter locations, not host city, but for like the teams, their base camp. Those are things that we need to consider as well. And we need to take into account of, are these going to be standards? What are people going to see? Is this what we want representing our country? And it's sad that the players have to be the ones who are talking about this and bringing it forward when, as an owner, you should be wanting to have the best pitch. You should want it to look incredible and amazing, and you should be the one taking pride in it, and it shouldn't be the players. See, sometimes I feel like people just buy a team to like sit on it as an investment, kind of like with stocks. Like, hey, I'm just going to buy this. I'm going to sit on it. It's going to get better, but I'm going to put zero effort into it. And then I'll sell it when we go ProRel, and I'll make some money on selling it to someone else. Sometimes that's how I feel about some of these teams.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, Ryan, to cut you off, but just to hit that point really fast, that's 100% what happens, because buying into the USL, which Backheeled had a wonderful article on expansion cost, which was great. It was not a John Morsey banger, but it was very, very good. And it talks about what it costs to run a team, right? And what it costs the first year. Just the expansion cost alone, and if someone could pull it up for me, because I don't have it up here because I wasn't thinking this conversation would go here, but I'm glad it did. The expansion cost immediately becomes net worth. It's not liquid money. They don't have that money, but that is a part of their net worth. Buying into the USL Championship raises your net worth by $30 million. And when you're doing business, that extra 30, that extra 0 is everything, right? That is what we're looking at, which is why when we get to Gamebridge in just a minute, when we have these conversations of we're bringing money into the league, guess what? That's a little bit more net worth for the owners, a little bit more net worth for the owners. It's 100% a power play of I want to buy in, mainly because I like sports. Sports are cool. Everybody wants to own a sports team, and my net worth goes up.
And to share some of the information that I had found from the Backyard article, which was written by Colton Corshi, who's very good with this article. Like for the USL Championship, if you include the on-field and off-field stuff and running it in year one, and like just to get the team off the ground at the high end, that's going to be roughly around 29 million. At the low end, that's going to be around 24 million. And then excluding year one, that would drop to about 8 million and 3.7 million if you're running it at kind of a high end and low end. And that's just in the championship. You can still find very pricey just kind of costs for running a League One team, for running a Super League team as well. And even then with this Loudoun situation, it reminds me a little bit of Northern Colorado that we saw from USL 1 last year, and the fact that in back-to-back seasons, USL has to deal with a team that isn't upholding their standards of play, their standards of treating their players adequately, is just not a good look. And honestly, it's more negotiating power for the players in this next CBA agreement to kind of come in and say, hey, these clubs aren't upholding these standards and we deserve a lot better.
Yeah, and I want to just kind of bring up Carson's kind of comment in the chat, where if you're podcast only, just kind of listen to me real fast. Worked at the front office at Loudoun 2021 to 2023. It was a struggle working under DC United. What I can say is that the people that worked for the team in the front office and team operations worked hard. It does suck because the players in front office and coaching staff deserve better. And yeah, here's the thing. When we talk about Loudoun and what's going on, the players are not a part of this conversation. The coaching staff's not a part of this conversation. In fact, when you look at Oliver Gage, who again is without a job after building a first place team in the USL Championship, I want people to really get that through their brain right now, that the higher ups at Loudoun United chose to get rid of Oliver Gage, who created a team on a bare minimum staff. I think they said that 8 players were on minimum wage contracts this year. He built a minimum wage staff, a minimum wage team, and have them at the top of the East. That has Charleston, that has Louisville, that has Detroit City, that has a lot of teams, Rhode Island, that has a lot of teams that have spent. And he moneyballed this team into being the best, and he gets fired for it without severance. We're not talking about the coaches or the front office themselves, the people who are trying to just survive. We're not talking about the players. Just ownership itself. Talk about not being able to see forest through the trees. Can somebody, Ryan or Danielle, I do believe it mentions in here that one of the people that they are trying to bring in is the head coach from DC Power, and as their new sporting director, or at least be a part of this front office. And if I'm wrong on this, please just correct me as soon as you can. If you've watched DC Power, why?
There's someone
They're awful,
who didn't do well in the league and was the first coach fired in Super League. I don't think that's a good recommendation to move to a higher position. And it just seemed like they didn't have a plan, and you had talented people and people who had professional experience who left the club at the break because there's clearly something going on that they did not want to be there, when you should have the same fields and exposure that DC United does when you're hired by them. So I'm sure he's a great assistant coach, but it seems to me from what I've seen, he probably needs some time underneath a top tier manager for another year or two before going on his own.
So now we kind of got the Loudoun bit out of our system. Does anybody have any final thoughts on this particular subject?
I wish we didn't have to talk about this at all. I'd rather talk about the soccer.